Well, welcome to another edition of Bolton In, all thanks to our friendly sponsors at Palmerbet, of course. Now, as I say, a very good afternoon to these two legends. One from Las Vegas, Adam McGrath. How are you, buddy?
Going well, Matty. How are you going? Probably the more important question.
I'm actually faring not too bad. And I have to apologise. I've got the old Leighton Hewitt look happening with the hat backwards. I've got little running shirts on, which probably don't smell the best, to be honest, at the moment. Couple of days. But Shane Anderson, as I say, a very good afternoon to you, mate. All the way from Copenhagen. How are you, big fella?
Oh, Matty, Adam, good to be with you both. And big shout out to you, Matty, and the wonderful cause that you're doing this long trek from Canberra to Warrnambool over. Huge admiration for you. It's been great seeing the updates coming through on social media. So I know Adam would match what I'm saying. Just outstanding effort and really proud of you, mate.
Good on you guys, and thank you very much for your support too. It's been absolutely magnificent. But let's talk horse racing. We've got 5 Group 1s. It is a monster weekend, of course. Randwick on the weekend, Caulfield Guineas Day, Everest Day up in Sydney. It is going to be huge. But let's have a look back at last week. And I was on the bus in between Canberra and Wagga Wagga, and it absolutely roared when Gold Trip got up because you boys, especially you, Adam McGrath, all over this. Fantastic victory. Kieran David Eustace. They got this horse absolutely flying, haven't they, Shane?
They certainly have. Big shout out to Adam, who gave Gold Trip a lovely, lovely push as the value selection in the Turnbull last week. We both took a set against the Hong Kong superstar Romantic Warrior, which worked our way. He ran well. I could not believe how good Gold Trip was. That acceleration over the last 400 metres, and I put out on social media, I mean, the more I watched the replay of the Turnbull Stakes, the better the performance of Gold Trip got. It was quite remarkable. He was outstanding. He's long been a very good horse. Of course, he didn't have the best win strike rate for a long period of time, but he began his career in Europe. He was good enough to run fourth in an Arc de Triomphe because he came out and won a Melbourne Cup last year. In my mind, he may have gone to a whole new level. That was a breathtaking win of the Turnbull Stakes. He's now pressing on to what the Caulfield Cup, the Cox Plate and the Melbourne Cup, 3 races on the radar in the coming weeks. Simply outstanding. It was an unbelievable win.
Yeah, Adam McGrath, well done to you, mate. Congratulations. Your best value, mate. And I think both of us might have took the 18s or the 19s and we were half a little bit filthy because with the big world pool, the horse got out to $30. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I know. It's always a way, isn't it? I know you were pretty keen on this as well, Matty. And as you said, I took, I think, 17 or 18 and then saw the 30s and felt like I'd lost somehow. I had to remind myself that it was a nice performance. But yeah, the turn of foot, I love Mark Zahra on this horse. They just get on so well. We'd mentioned that he had ridden Osipenko the start before, which Shane and I threw out as well. And he elected to stay with Gold Trip and thought it was such a good performance. But there was a lot to look at in this race. The West Wind Blows was really good. Love the work of Solcombe again. And Shane, we sort of alluded to it coming in that we just thought an 80% or 85% Romantic Warrior was probably worth taking on at that $2 mark. But for mine, the horses ticked all of the boxes. They've got bigger races coming up. They've made that very clear that they're here for the big ones and they're going to build into those. And I thought that was a pass mark. We said we wanted to see top 5. It ran 4th. I think the team would be very happy with that performance.
Yeah, it's a really important point you raised there. The goal is the Cox Plate for Romantic Warrior. That has been said from day one. Danny Schum's language going into last week, he's at around 85% fit. Now, quite a lot of the other horses, and particularly when you're travelling internationally, 85% fit, you can still run well, but it's going to really take that proper ping out of your legs. I like him. He's a very, very good horse, and he's certainly well and truly on track. But hopefully we'll get a slightly more realistic price now come the Cox Plate. But yeah, it was just to go back to Gold Trip. As I said earlier, the more you watch that replay, the better the performance gets. But West Wind Blows, runner-up in that race, pressing on now to the Caulfield Cup. He certainly ticked the boxes as well. So I think we're going to be in for a pretty good Caulfield Cup next week.
Hey, talking about rising stars, Star Patrol, absolutely magnificent. The Gill guy. I'll come back to you, Adam McGrath. Clint McDonald's got this horse absolutely low flying at the moment.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? You have to be impressed with everything you're seeing from Star Patrol. And again, Matty, I know your little value pick, Triple Missile, the ex-West Aussie, really nice performance by it as well in those conditions to go well. But she mentioned this horse just going along really well. 6 from 16 now, really enjoys racing there at the Flemington track with 4 wins from 6 starts. So they're going to have a lot of fun with this 5-year-old. Still lightly enough race with only those 16 starts. And I think Clint McDonald, we know, he can really pick his race as well. So I think she can, again, play some big part in some bigger races coming up. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do decide to do with it moving forward.
And Shane Anderson, what about the performance of Montefilia in the Hill Stakes? Pretty impressive. This horse, deserves to win a nice race. Been knocking on the door for such a long period of time.
Yeah, look, I'm still staggered. The Hill Stakes was worth $2 million. A huge amount of money. Montefilia, look, what can you say? Really, really good mare.
Consistent.
Again, one of those. Exactly, you've summed it up superbly. Really consistent mare. It's one of those mares, one of those horses that I don't think I've had the best of luck following because, when I've tended to be on, finds a way of getting beat. When I'm on something else, here comes Montefilia over the top of them all. But yeah, like touch of quality. Where they go with Montefilia, if it's heading towards Melbourne, of course, I think, again, what do you say? It will run well if it gets the right draw, the right run. You're going to be right in the thick of things if you're with it. I just find Montefilia a horse, from my perspective, to get right, but clearly got lots of ability, and it was a pretty solid win in the Hill Stakes.
I thought as well, Shano, taking from that point where you talked about the week before, Gabe Waterhouse and Adrian Bott, how they're just absolutely airborne at the moment, and Huya Mal just again showed that this stable, every one of their horses is flying.
Yeah, Huya Mal's a really interesting runner. Was bought for a lot of money out of the UK with the intent was going to measure up as a Cups type of horse. Looks to be well and truly now on track. Was good enough to compete in a derby as a 3-year-old over in the UK. Yeah, I like the improvement it's making. It's sort of, often the old days language with the internationals coming to Australia was quite often whatever they do in their first season, you would see a considerable improvement the following season or 2 seasons along with a bit more maturity, a bit more acclimation. So, yeah, look, Huya Mal's on track. Don't know what for yet, if you know what I mean. Like lots of ability. I'm just not sure what race will be the race that it really sort of goes to a peak level with, but I like the progression it's making.
Hey, gents, let's have a look at the first of the Group 1s. It's the Everest, of course, race 7 round week on Saturday. The market, all thanks to Palmerbet. Think about it, is our favourite, $4.60. I wish I win. $5, Private Eye, $6.50, Cylinder at $8.50, Overpass $10, In Secret at $10, Buenos Nachos at $14, Hawaii 5-0, $15, Espiona at $16, Shinzo 18, Alcohol Free 51, and Marzu at $71. Now, Barrier 1, that's been the big talking point over the last 24 hours with the long-time favourite, I wish I win. I'm going to come back to you, Shane Anderson. Is it a knock? Is it a trick? I must admit, I reckon this horse is going to be absolutely cherry ripe for the Everest. Peter Moody is going to have this trained to the absolute minute.
I think you're right. I'm not totally against the inside barrier, particularly when you've got just a lazy $20 million in prize money on offer for the Everest. I think you want to be saving every inch in the run if you can and be used at the right time. Look, I've got it down to 2, and they are at the top of the market. I've mentioned numerous times, think about it, I've got a love affair with this horse, and I wish I win is just a star on his day. So I am making my best think about it. Joe Pride, Sam Clinton from barrier number 5 just gets, I think, the way the race should unfold. It looks like it's going to be a solid run, Everest. I don't think they're going to go at breakneck speed. So I just think, I mean, it's a massive prize money race. I don't think they're going to just be sitting back, waiting for a quick whiz home. Like, I think there's going to be a strong...
I reckon, boys, like it's a 1,200-metre race, and I reckon this is why Peter Moody has said, I wish I win around over the 1,400, because I reckon you've got to run a really strong 1,200 metres to win an Everest.
Yeah, agree. And I think to my eye, the 2 horses that meet that criteria the best are Think About It and I Wish I Win. So I've got very little between them. Marginal preference for Think About It, just because I think if the breaks go his way, Sam Clipperton will have him bang on speed or just trailing the speed. If we present at the top of the straight, I think he's going to make considerable improvement from his first up, a narrow win in the Premier, but everything was good on that occasion. Ran a very quick time, 108.7 for the 1,200 metres. I think he's going to improve fitness-wise from that. We saw what he did during the winter up in Brisbane with his 2 Group 1s and the Kingsford Smith and the Stradbroke. For me, he's the most likely winner. I Wish I Win, the biggest threat. I feel in a way he's almost forgotten, and his price is probably getting out to a really juicy price now. The campaign has always been Memsy into this. Moody hasn't deviated. I think he'll strip a lot fitter from his first up run. We know Moody's a genius, so I think he can Think About It, and I Wish I Win. as the two most likely winners of the race. My marginal preference for Think About It. Can't wait for this one, the Everest. It's going to be a cracker.
It is going to be a cracker, mate. Adam McGrath, what are your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, look, an interesting race, and as Shane mentioned, Think About It, definitely his horse. I thought the run was really good the other day, but it still just concerned me a little bit. I've just not been able to fall for this horse the same way that Shane has. I am with number one, I Wish I Win. Only run of this track was in the TJ Smith, won that on a heavy 9, and the comments from Peter Moody after the race still saying how much better this horse is on a dry surface just rings out for me. Thought the run of the Memsey was really good, never finished worse than third at the distance. My only concern, I actually am concerned about the speed. I mean, in previous years, we've seen Nature Strip, we've seen Eduardo, we've seen them go head-to-head out in front. Overpass is the only real leader in this race. Now, as you've alluded to, they're not going to go slow in the 1200, but there is always the concern about being curled up in barrier 1 when there's not that same speed that we're used to. But I still think this horse is good enough, and I think Peter Moody will have an absolute cherry ripe for the race. My value bet in the run is number 9, In Secret. At this trip, 6 starts, 4 wins and a second, including the Group 1 Newmarket over the distance. Zach Purton's in town. We only have to remember this time last year when Zach arrived, and he took out a couple of those events. Thought the runs in the Concord and the shorts over at the lesser distance just been screaming out for 1200. Goes well on a good track. And look, again, going to need speed in the race, but I think from the draw and with Zach in the saddle, they can be a little bit wider out and moving into it with the 3 or 4 wide lines. So I Wish I Win. I'll stick with it. It's one of my favourite horses going around, and it'll be my best bet. And I think In Secret's a really nice value bet for the event.
Love it, boys. Right, let's move along to the King Charles III Stakes. Of course, formerly the Queen Elizabeth Stakes. Over the 1,600 metres, the market, all thanks to Palmerbit, Mr. Brightside, $2. Fangirl at $8.50. Zaki at $9. Light Infantry, $9.50. Kovalika at $13. Think at over $14. Buckaroo at $21. And Golden Mile at $26. Mr. Brightside, 2 from 2 at the track. 1,600 metres, 10 from 16. It is the best 1,600 metres in the horse in the world, I reckon, for mine at the moment. Adam McGrath, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I'm not taking it on. I tried that early days and just looked like an absolute idiot now, don't we? Yeah, so I'm going with it. Looking for 7 in a row, undefeated the track and distance. You said 10 from 14 at the mile. Nice draw, can work into it from 8. Look, there's not a lot of speed in the race either, but this horse is just good enough to make its own luck. So for mine, it's on top. I'm going to stick with Kovalika as well. I know this horse goes up 4.5 kilos, but I think this is a 4-year-old that is a weight for age specialist. The only defeat at this distance came last start. We saw how good that was. And nothing at all with the against the jockey change at all. I don't think McAvoy did anything wrong last time. But Tommy Berry's obviously just got a little bit of hunger in his stomach after the suspension, coming back. I like that he's on this horse. He'd be sitting there going, I've got a serious chance to bounce back and win a Group 1 here. He won't be waiting too long, having seen it attack the line. So I think Kovalika will get stoked up just that little bit earlier this start and be flying through the line late. So I'll go with Mr. Brightside and I'll stick with Kovalika after that last run as well.
What are your thoughts, Shane?
Firstly, I'll just say the King Charles III, please. Can we give it another name? Viva la Republic. You know, I'm sick of these English monarchs getting big races named after them in Australia. Put that aside. It will be a fantastic race. Look, I'm with Adam here. I think Mr. Brightside, you've got to keep deferring back to him. Adam and I, over our journey of this program, we've been against him on too many occasions. Can't just keep going. He's legitimately, as you said, Matty, if he's not the best miler in the world, he's up there. And if he's clearly the best miler in Australia, look at his record. I mean, an all-star, 2 Doncasters, Mackay Diva Stakes. He's won a Fian. The list goes on. 2 Lawrences, a Memsey. Look, he's just a really, really good horse. In fact, he's almost the pin-up horse for anyone wanting to talk about if you want to get into ownership of a racehorse, because he was modestly bred. I don't think he was super expensive. He's tough, he's durable, and he's bloody good. So I think he gets his chance to add another big race success next to his name. I'm happy to be with him. He looks on track. Did you see his little jump out of his trial at Benalla on October 2? It was a smooth trial. He certainly looks like he's progressed nicely from the Mackay Diva. So fitness-wise, everything about him, tick, 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 tick. He's the one to beat Mr. Brightside. Now, of the others, what a great field it is because, I mean, you can go to Kovalika, who I've been a big fan of, and I was with him in the Epsom. But I've just kept looking at this race and I've come back to old Zaki as potentially the value runner here. I'm just getting a vibe that he may be forgotten a little bit. He's a 9-year-old now. We know he's very good. His record when he's up at the peak of fitness levels, there's very little between him and Mr. Brightside. He's runs his campaign, third in the Winks first up, ticked the box nicely there. He then went to the 7 Stakes and he was runner-up behind Think It Over when, beaten narrowly. What I like the most about Zaki for this race is when you go back through his history, his profile, whenever he has 3 to 4 weeks breaks between runs, he really, really does tend to show off a big performance. So he's had 4 weeks from his last run into this. He's thinking, to my view, I just think he might be forgotten in the market a little bit. So I put my best as Mr. Brightside for the King Charles III, my value bet, Zaki. Great race. Again, another one really looking forward to.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a ripping day at Randwick. It's going to be a massive day at Caulfield as well, Caulfield Guineas Day. And the market, all thanks to Palmerbet. Militarise is our favourite, the Sydney Raider at $2.80. Step Hardy, wouldn't this be a huge story? $3.40. King Colorado at $7.50. She-Light at $13. V8, $17. Centify, $17. Southport Tycoon, $21. And Woofy from the Nick Ryan Yard at $21. Shane Anderson, I'm going to start with you, mate. Is it a 2-horse affair, or are we thinking there might be a blowout chance, a little bit better value in the market?
I think it's a 1-horse affair, Matty. I think Militarise is a good thing. Love him.
Yep.
Was with him in the Sires in Sydney, was with him in the Champagne. I had him as my value bet in the Golden Rose. I just think he ticks so many boxes. Already a 3-time Group 1 winner. And I like the fact he's drawn out because he's a horse that can often be a little bit slow out of the barriers. And his history of, race profile is that he tends to be back in the field, probably midfield or slightly worse as expected from the pace of this race. I loved his win in the Golden Rose. You could just see him trying to work his way through, going through his gears. And didn't he explode that last sort of 100 metres in the Golden Rose to get up and win? The acceleration at the end of that race was breathtaking. I think he just ticks all the boxes as potentially a great Caulfield Guineas winner and hopefully springboarding from a win on Saturday into the Cox Plate where I think he'd be a live chance. I've got Militarise clearly above all of the other runners. Good luck to all of the connections, particularly those around Stapati. I think he'll run well. But I have put my value bet in as King Colorado. I'm just thinking the Sydney form is a bit stronger than the Melbourne form. I might be proven wrong here. Look, he's already a Group 1 winner over the trip as a 2-year-old in the JJ Atkins, and I think he's had pass marks in his 2 runs this campaign. He's only beaten 2.5 lengths in the Winks Stakes against older horses. He then went to the Golden Rose where he's midfield, but good late, beaten just on 2 lengths. I thought he tried hard. He's ready for the mile third up. And I think he settles, midfield or further back in a race that should be run truly. So Militarise very, very strongly in the camp of it as my best bet for my value bet, King Colorado.
Yeah, beautiful. Adam McGrath, are you going the same kind of thought process here, mate, or are you looking outside the circle?
Yeah, look, I won't go into it too much because Shane's said everything that I sort of agree with when it comes to Militarise. My only question mark on this horse was, is it as good on a dry track as it is on a soft and a heavy? Because that's where we've seen so many of those good performances. And I think we got the answer last start. So now for me, that was the only query I had on the horse was I really wanted to see that turn of foot in a good 4 or a good 3. Tick all the boxes there. I'm with Shane. I think the wide draws absolutely benefit. I think they'll be able to work into it 3-4 wide, Joey down the middle of the track. I think Militarise will be winning. My value for the race is number 7, Ski Light. The Keys camp just always seem to have one, don't they? There's always just going around and some good performances. I love the way that this horse performed in the McNeil in the Guineas Prelude. Barrier 13, not ideal, but Mark Zara, he's as good as anyone at this time of the year. And it's the only horse that broke 11 seconds in the Guineas Prelude, ran the fastest 200 of the event. So I think it's a nice little value bet.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I reckon there's one to chuck in at a real bit of value. Woofy from the Nick Ryan Yard. I don't know whether you've seen the work yesterday. Looked sensational for mine. And I reckon this horse has got a bit of ability. There's a bit of a connection back home in Warrnambool with some local owners. And they're pretty bullish about the chance of Woofy stepping out to that 1,600 metres as well. So that's the value runner for me. Let's have a look now at the Toorak Handicap, which is race 10 at Caulfield on Saturday. And the market, all thanks to Palmerbet. Well, she's a super filly. Amelia's Jewel at $2. Antino at $4.60. The Inevitable at $12. Here to Shock at $12. Amenable at $16. Rider Jenny $17. Pinstripe $18. And Attrition $21. And obviously a few of these horses on the path possibly to the Cox Plate. Adam McGrath, I'll start with you, mate. What's your thoughts on the Toorak?
Yeah, look, I'm looking forward to this one, as I'm sure you can imagine, being the Amelia Jewel fan. She gets a visitor's draw again. She's jumped from 14, 14, 9, and this will be 12 in her last 4 starts. She showed her class at Flemington. She was basically untouched in the Group 2 Letzelo. She was ridden upside down. I say that in a positive way last time. The ride won the race. But I just think now this is going to set up perfectly for her. I don't think we've seen the best of her yet, and that's coming from watching her over in WA and, of course, listening to Simon Miller. I think that last run's just set her up perfectly. I think she'll get to the outside. She'll go straight past them, and we'll see her class again. I'm really hoping that's the case, and she can bring up another Group 1 performance. My value bet, I was going between Pinstripe and Attrition. I've ended up going back to Pinstripe just with Attrition having that other run and being a little bit disappointing. But, I mean, we've just talked about Mr. Brightside. Prior to the run last start from Pinstripe, with 59 kilos, was only beaten 1.75 behind Mr. Brightside at Caulfield over 1,400. So drops in weight. I think this horse is huge overs. Tricky barrier, but we've seen from that last run as well that this horse can have a long, sustained run. So I think Pinstripe over the odds, but we're cheering Amelia's Jewel home very loudly from Vegas.
Dano, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm in the Amelia's Jewel camp. Her overall record is sensational, as Adam said. Super popular, wonderfully gifted. She's a 4-year-old mare, probably right at the peak of her powers now, and the 2 wins, the Let's Lope into the stocks, have been terrific. Now, this is a race that traditionally the Rupert Clark is probably the most legitimately strong form line, but I think we can steer clear of that this year and just go into the race with a bit of conviction that Amelia's Jewel, her best, is the best in the race. She looks on song. I love the fact that Simon Miller had the blinkers on in her work at Caulfield on Tuesday morning just to keep her sharp and fit and show her progression. The funny thing is, we've only had 3 mares win this race in the last 30 years. Divine Madonna in 2007, she carried 55 kilos. She was a superstar miler. We had LA Wonder in 2009, 52 kilos, high-class mare. And, of course, the Great More Joyous one in 2010, carrying 58 kilos. She was a legitimate champion. So 56 kilos on her back. She's already in sort of rare territory with what we're expecting a mare to carry in this race. But I think she's good enough to do it. So I'm with Adam. Fairly confident Amelia's Jewel can win. I found one at a massive price as my value bet. I'm going for Charterhouse from the Mar and Eustace camp. I think we're going to get around $51. So I'm happy to have something each way on Charterhouse. An imported galloper who was a listed winner and a Group 3 placed over the Mile in Ireland 12 months ago. And I just think he looks dangerous on the minimum weight, which is the lightest weight he's carried in his career, 52 kilos. We've only seen him limitedly in Australia. He ran well when runner-up in a winter championship. And, of course, I thought there were plenty of positives after his first up run in the Bobby Lewis. I think he's a great chance at a massive price, and he's a horse that's got a bit of tactical versatility. So he probably, with the lightweight, can be fairly handy to the pace. But also I wouldn't be too worried if he's midfield or a little bit worse because he can finish off the race. But I like Amelia's Jewel a lot, but I'm having something on Charterhouse at a massive price.
Right, let's move along to the Might and Power Race 7, Caulfield Saturday. All thanks to Palmer Bet, Alligator Blood at $2.10, Just Fine $4, Duas at $6, Lindemann 13. He's a shock at 19, Nonconformist at $21. I'm going to come back to you, Shane. What are your thoughts? Alligator Blood, scintillating start.
Yeah, he was great. I'm renaming the Might and Power this year to the Gay Waterhouse Adrian Bob Benefit Stakes because I think they'll dominate it with Alligator Blood and Just Fine. Alligator Blood, top selection. Look, 2 previous 2,000 metre runs. He was 5th in this race last year, beaten 2 1/4 lengths, and he was in arguably the worst part of the track on the rail. He was behind Animo, I'm Thunderstruck, Zaki, and Mr. Brightside. Best form available, realistically, middle distance-wise in Australia. He went to a 5th in a Cox Plate, beaten 2 lengths. His campaign this spring, 4th at a Memsey, 2nd in a Mackay Diva. He won the Underwood. I don't think this is any stronger than the Underwood Stakes. He was dominant on that occasion. The 4th home, Sulcombe, ran well in a Turnbull, so there's enough substance around the form. Racing pattern, he leads or sits bang on pace, controls the race. He's an outstanding horse. I think he'll win his 7th Group 1. So I've got him on top. The danger, Just Fine. We talked about him going into the Metropolitan. He's gone to a new level since arriving into Australia. I love that win in the Metropolitan. Margin was only narrow, but there was a big gap 2nd to 3rd. And he's rock hard fit. I like the little ease back in trip 2 weeks after the Metropolitan. I think he's the main threat. I'm only keen on the Waterhouse bot runners in this. Alligator Blood, top selection. Just Fine the danger. Again, looking forward to it.
Hey, Ads, what about you, buddy?
Probably the first time we're going to disagree through the spring. I'm happy to take them both on. Alligator Blood, 2 runs at the distance, never featured in the top 3, and I think just gets a little bit vulnerable out at this distance. I'm with number 9, Jewis, and look, hasn't won for over 560 days. Obviously a huge concern, but love the way this horse has just been getting home. I think she's back to her old self. I think the speed in this race from Just Fine and Alligator Blood, those types will suit. Blake Shin in the saddle. I like it. I think this horse can run a really good race. Obviously, barrier 10 at 10, she can just get back and wind up. I thought she'll be attacking the line strongly. My value runner, I'm with number 9, Nonconformist. 3rd up now, 4th fastest last 200 in the Underwood. Very good at the track and distance, 2 wins from 4 starts and a second. And I'd love to see Harry Coffey ride another Group 1 winner. So, Jewis, I'll go as the best bet and Nonconformist as the value.
Absolutely love it, boys. Now, listen, what about around the grounds? Where are we thinking for our Palmer Bet followers? What else have we got for us? Shane Anderson, I'm going to start with you. We've been in good, Nick?
Yeah, I like 2. Short and sweet in the Scalacci. Asfura should win. So for Henry Dwyer coming through, good. I like your support there, Matty. No, but I mean, you just can't knock the way Asfura is going. And I think the 1,000 metres at Caulfield's just tick, tick, tick. There to win the race. So Asfura take the Scalacci. And up in Sydney in the Kosciuszko, one of the other features on a race car that's got $31.5 million in prize money at Randwick on Saturday. It's amazing. And the Kosciuszko, I'm going with Opal Ridge. I like this horse coming into the race fresh. I think it's going to run enormously well. So Asfura in the Scalacci, Opal Ridge in the Kosciuszko.
What about you, Ads?
Yeah, look, I'm going to the Scalacci as well, and I've always been a Asfura fan and not an Uncommon James fan, but I'm actually going with Uncommon James here. Blinkers go on, and watching that replay numerous times, Uncommon James just didn't handle the bend. If you watch it before the corner, after the corner, Uncommon James is taking ground off Asfura very quickly. So I think it can turn the tables. Happy to take the favourite on there. And then just more of a one-time 4 type of bet, the Herbert Power Stakes. The number 1 Darkwing Sweet Junior. It's a horse I backed in the Melbourne Cup last year at about 100 odd, and it finished 6th. And I've just been following it for a long time. It hasn't won for 600 days as well, like a Jewis, but love the 3 runs this prep. Blake Shin in the saddle, up 400 metres. You're getting around that $10 a win and $3 a place. So, as I said, 1 times 4. I think Dark and Sweet Junior is due to win a nice race.
Nice work, boys. Love it. On with the Spura too. Matty's must-haves for this week. All thanks to Palmer Bet. We're going against you, myself and Shane. And I also like the local race 8. Horse number 10, Wishlaw Lash from the Simon Wild Yard, won really well last start. Got a bit of an opinion of this horse, and I reckon might get the job done in the Cadillac Jewelers Vase. Gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure as always. Download that Palmer Bet app. Get involved. It is a wonderful weekend of racing. 5 Group 1s, Randwick and, of course, Caulfield. And as we always say, gamble responsibly and do it in a responsible manner. Shane, Adam, you enjoy your week, boys.
Yeah, you keep running hard, Matty. Rest up.
Take care, guys.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.